Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host, Deffinition. This is a dimension as vast as space and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between not seeing the show and seeing it. It is the channel where we explain it so you don't have to. This is the Twilight Zone. The show has just dropped its 5th episode in the Jordan Peele reboot, and Wunderkind is a modern commentary on politics and society as a whole. Throughout this video, I'll be breaking down everything that you need to know about the episode and its ending. This is full spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen it yet, then I highly recommend that you turn off now. With that out the way, thanks for clicking the video. Now let's dive into my ending explained breakdown of the Wunderkind. The Twilight Zone reboot has been pretty heavily criticised for its social commentary being so heavy-handed that it's almost hitting you over the head with it, and the Wunderkind is no different. This is arguably the episode that is most steeped in politics, so rather than do the typical recap, I thought I'd discuss the main themes of it. This could be a modern reboot of the original series episode titled A Good Life, in which a young boy with godlike powers ended up ruling over a town with the anger of a malevolent being. The citizens lived in fear of their leader and smiled through gritted teeth as they were forced to bow to his every beck and call. Raph throughout this episode finds himself in the firing line of a child with immense power, and the two are tied together quite heavily. I definitely recommend that you check that episode out, as it's one of the show's bests, and it's clear why they would choose to remake it. The Wunderkind, on the other hand, follows Raph Hanks as he awakens on an operating table to find himself at the mercy of a mysterious voice. The episode tells the tale of how he got there and follows his career as a presidential campaign manager that is attempting to put a young YouTube sensation into the Oval Office. Now, from the off, this is a very clear commentary on Donald Trump's presidential run. Trump was often criticised of being childish, and his Twitter rants have given his critics a lot of ammunition. Peele subverts this with the Wunderkind and instead uses YouTube as Oliver's outlet. With this platform, he is able to reach millions, and many people just agree with what he's saying without any backings of plans or statistics, just because it sounds good. Sound familiar? Well, this is basically what would happen if Justin Bieber became president, and it's easy to see how charisma goes a long way for popularity. When Oliver starts stating things like more jobs, more air to breathe, he quickly becomes popular, and Hanks helps him to implement his campaign throughout the country. Free video games for Oliver also seems to be his biggest promise, and this seems to be a direct retort to the political claims that games cause things like mass shootings and more. Clearly, the creative team behind this are trying to show that any aspect can be weaponized in a political campaign to fit agendas, and it showcases how people get swept up in statements instead of looking at the practicality behind them. Oliver stumbles through debates, knows little of foreign policy, and yet people still love him. So why is this? Well, perhaps it's because there's no filter in place. As much as you can disagree with Trump, even his staunchest critics must realise that he won because he's not a standard politician and doesn't feel like a puppet. Oliver too embodies this with his outbursts and groundedness. The episode suggests that Trump came along at a time when people were so disillusioned with politics that anyone could have been plunked in front of the camera and would have won. People are just so apathetic to the entire thing that they will vote for whoever promises the most. Therefore, what this episode is really suggesting is that people need to stop being so apathetic towards politics in order to take back the country and stop us from all ending up in similar positions to the one that Raph finds himself in. Oliver, of course, gets elected and put in the Oval Office, but it's clear that he's out of his depth and has been spoiled by the gain in power. He begins by bringing free video games to everyone, and similar to Trump, he tries to bypass Congress in order to fulfill his campaign promises. There are several outbursts which are obviously comments on Trump's personality, and gradually the country falls apart. Oliver enforces a no old doctors policy, and this of course leads to the position that Raph finds himself in at the end. After being accused of treason, Oliver turns on him and he is shot. Raph survives it, but unfortunately he finds himself being operated on by a child who doesn't want to do anything more than get back to playing video games, and therefore Raph gets a fate of his own doing. Now, whilst the episode may be pretty heavy-handed in its Trump metaphors, there's also the possibility that this could indeed be aimed at liberals who perhaps don't have the wisdom that comes with age to properly see politics for what they are. Therefore, the episode could be viewed as what may happen should the decisions be handed over to those perhaps too young to see the outcomes, and I do appreciate that there is duality to the episode, even if I feel that it fails to really live up to its premise. Overall, this is another mixed bag for the series, with it getting too bogged down in its own ideologies to deliver an enjoyable narrative for me. If more time was spent on character development instead of setting up subtext, I think this could be in a similar vein to Black Mirror, but it falls short so many times. What was so good about the original series is that its episodes were enjoyable whether you knew the subtext behind them or not. Peele's version seems like you have to be aware of several aspects of modern society in order to even scratch the surface, and this makes them slightly inaccessible. Overall, as we head into the final episode of the show, I'm not too excited, but I guess we'll find out if it lives up to the hype next week. Obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and if you're enjoying the series so far. Comment below and let me know, and if you enjoyed this video then please like it and make sure you check out my breakdown of the entire season thus far, which will be linked at the end. This is a channel for people who are never missing television, so if that's the kind of thing you like, you need to subscribe to Deffinition. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this, you've been the best and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.